Hello and welcome to the first episode of the Financial Engineer Talks. I'm your host, Mohammed Murad, and this podcast is where we bring together global insights and actionable strategies to help you create, preserve, and grow wealth for yourself and your bloodline. This podcast is tailored for high net worth individuals, sophisticated investors, and anyone passionate about building a lasting financial legacy. In an ever changing world where AI is dominating, there's a lot of talks between China and the US. Africa is still struggling with certain regulations on the AIs. There's a lot of topics. One of the hottest topics is what's happening in the EU. So, today's session, and it's the first episode, we're going to be discussing all those topics in a timely manner. The plan with this podcast is to go live every week, being inspired by the economist hottest topics, discuss them, take out what's useful for us as investors, and see where it goes from there. So, the first topic on our agenda today is going to be the Africa versus big tech. And the real challenge over there is really the legal and economic battle. This article by The Economist was heavily inspired by the events that happened in Kenya and the case of Abraham Mirag. I don't know if I'm pronouncing the name correct or not. Mr. Mirag, the father, was targeted in Ethiopia's civil war due to Facebook posts that spread false allegations. This only brings back memories of the Myanmar issues and the Facebook algorithms. Now, here I want to go back to a book that I have read and enjoyed recently, and it's called Nexus. Nexus is written by Yuval Harari, is one of the best books that can give you an elevated speech or an elevated view about the AI technologies. Where are we in that race today between human intelligence and the artificial intelligence, and what are the risks that brings on? One of the best ideas that I've enjoyed the book on was he took into consideration the case study to achieve one objective, and they keep going until they achieve that objective. Now, having said that, remember the job of an algorithm is to increase engagement. So, when those algorithms were running in the background, they discovered that hate speech was increasing engagement. So, guess what? They've increased the hate speech discussions and shadowed the good speech or a discussion to solve the issue or bring love between the fighting tribes over there. And this is the same situation that happened again in the case of Abraham Mirag. Now, developers in Meta and Facebook says, look, guys, our job is to design algorithms, not to tell what's hate and what's not hate speech. Having said that, they have removed the responsibility from themselves as human beings and left it on the algorithms that were designed to literally achieve one objective in mind, which is increase engagement. This caused a lot of death in Myanmar in the past, and now it has reflected again in the legal challenge that happened with Mr. Mirag. The court case of Kenya decided to take Meta and their management for a court, asking them for a 2.3 billion lawsuit. Now, this is not a big amount for a company like Meta, valued at a very high capital market cap, let's say. I don't know the exact market cap of Meta at the moment, but I'm sure it has crossed at least $1 or $2 trillion. However, the first excuse that came to their mind, the Meta management people said, look, guys, we're an American-based company. You cannot sue us in Kenya. What do you think about that? But if you come and think about it, this challenge is with every tech space that is available in the world, from social media to e-commerce that is cross boundaries, cross words to wherever. Now, this also bring another topic in mind that I was really impressed in from the book Nexus again. He speaks about now when those algorithms and those social media have access to our everyday use, they already are gathering information on our likings, our dislikings, our behaviors, and behavioral analytics. And they can start selling us products that is customizable by the algorithms to our likes. You know, sometimes you're talking to your friends about something, and then suddenly you start being bombarded by targeted ads that looks like this is what you really want. Now, if you are a user of whatever social media platform located in any place you wish to be at the moment on Earth, let's take it Kenya, for example, and you have engaged with certain videos, certain posts. Now, the algorithm in the background is already aware about what you like and what you don't like. Then suddenly he starts targeting you with certain content to sell you a product from the Facebook marketplace or from a Shopify or from an Amazon or whatever is the platform of e-commerce that can sell you those products. Now, who gets to tax you? You are living in Kenya. The platform that is selling you the product is based in the US or globally or wherever it is. Now, you're paying the product, you're paying for the product, but you are a user living in Kenya, not living in the US, benefiting an American company somewhere in the world. Now your government is standing poor, trying to face a global shift that has no chance to compete with. And this is literally the fight that is happening right now between governments and tech oligarchies around the world. Where do they get their cut? And how can they be paid? Now, for more details on this, I highly recommend that you read the book Nexus. You can enjoy the discussions later on this, but the concept is, and you're going to see more and more rises of government court cases against companies like Meta. If we speak about Meta, is mainly because it has the Facebook, it has the Instagram, it has the WhatsApp, it has everything. Now, in another perspective, you can look at YouTube as well, and Google, so and Twitter. Basically, everywhere you are engaging heavily, those algorithms are correcting or are collecting and analyzing your favorite actor, your favorite product, your wants and desires, and accordingly targeting you with specific sales ads. Your government is not going to benefit from that. So the fight with governments and those companies are going to increase in order to establish certain, I don't know if I can call it digital jurisdictions or not, but there is a space for entrepreneurs who can think about how to solve this issue for them to create new products in their businesses, to offer it to their governments or to offer it to companies like those big oligarchies around the world. One of the biggest problem is who gets to cut on your money, because you are a targeted individual living in any country you want to be in the world, and people from around the world selling you a product from totally different space. That's what we speak about globalization in its best. Yet governments don't like it because you're not paying taxes to them. So who do you benefit? Anyway, this is one of the biggest challenges that are happening right now in Africa, and we're tackling the topic of Africa first. We're going to be tackling some more topics on the AI as we come next, and what's happening in the EU and the Europe shortages on energy. As we move forward, again, Meta Defense was the same that they have used in 2018. Kenya cannot sue us because we are registered in America, in the US. And our employees are living there, but they belong to the US company. So, hey, Kenya, you cannot do anything against us. I'm sorry for that. Now, there's another legal precedence that is happening in Africa, also against the tech accountability. It happened in California, but this time for an 85 million compensations, and that was for a mental health damages. You know, when people start comparing themselves to the Jonases, to the pressure, to the adrenaline rush, to the dopamine rush, all of that has caused certain users mental health damages. The court case has been settled for 85 million, but hey, that was the US, yeah? Everybody can sue anything, anyone for anything they want to have. It's not the rest of the world case, but in the US it happened that way. Now, coming back to Africa, this is causing them a heavy reputational crisis, especially at the moment with Trump being back into the White House and his favorism for big tech companies. You can see who has been at the inauguration last week on the 20th and also who is in the cabinet. So definitely he's going to stand by his knight shining armors to support them, like people like Mark Zuckerberg, people like Sam Altman's, and all of those guys are his knights. So the US is going to stand back and support them because basically those people are bringing money back into the US from all over the world. So why not? Now, Africa is trying to find ways to regulate those big tech companies. The leader at the moment at this race is William Ruto, who's trying to make Nairobi a tech hub. And there's a lot of pressure to attract investment over there. So for some family offices, for some entrepreneur, this could be a good opportunity there. However, the dilemma will always stand, bad jobs or no jobs. The Kenya's government is facing a tough choice between enforcing accountability or losing tech investments. And who's going to win? We already spoke why about the accountability and the tech investments. Who's going to invest there? It's a large space, good opportunities. Now, as we are closing away the topic on Africa, these are some takeaways for the listeners. It matters to investors because Africa's tech sector is booming. It's true it's having legal risks and could impact foreign investments. The governments are learning how to regulate big techs, which could increase compliance costs. That's true. Meta's legal troubles could set a precedent for lawsuits in other emerging markets. So the lawsuit against Meta, which is around $2.8 billion, it did not close yet, but let's see what's going to happen. Now, the biggest question is Africa finally pushing back against big tech? Will they come up with something local? Or Silicon Valley will continue to dominate and it will continue to be unchecked? On the other side, regulations might kill the investments in Africa, and that's a big challenge. So between those two situations, regulations and attracting investments, this is the biggest challenge Africa is facing at the moment and how to answer it. And I know here for us in the Middle East, the guys has done an amazing job to attract talent, to enjoy big tech companies, enjoy the AI race, and innovate new companies, new technologies and startups here in Dubai. They've done an amazing job implementing in advance regulations that could support entrepreneurs in that space. Now to the topic of the week. The hottest topic on space is DeepSeek and the battle for technological dominance. Is the Americans gonna win or the Chinese? If you have an opinion, share with us. Have any one of you tried DeepSeek so far? Or are we still loyal to ChatGPT? Now, Before we dig into the depths of DeepSeek, let's give a little bit of background about what has been happening in the US, all the way from Stargate, the almost $500 billion investment that Trump has allocated for them in the next 5 years, and the O3 of OpenAI. What are the opportunities for investors, and what can we think about those? Now, me personally, I have been a user of ChatGPT for the last 3 years. I was a free user at the beginning, and then I felt the power for using it into my decision-making process, into my business, into also eliminating a lot of the routine jobs that are happening in my office, reducing a lot on the admin costs, overhead costs, and stuff like that. I've been a loyal customer for ChatGPT, I think, for the last 2 years, and I've been using ChatGPT as agent for the last 1 year in the decision-making models, where to invest, analyzing the macros, the micros, and everything. So far, I haven't seen any complaints until O3 came on. Yeah, with a $20 subscription, it was fine, but now when O3 came on, they are asking for a $200 subscription. That was like, why do I need to pay that much? And then later on, when I did some deeping, when I've done some more analysis on the topic, I came to understand that the O3, it's faster. They say it's think harder, but okay, I had to teach ChatGPT. With O3, it's saying it's faster, but I don't think I'm gonna spend $200 to explore something I've already done. Okay, it took me 1.5 years to do it, but I'm fine with what I already have, unless one day they come and say, hey, your ChatGPT 4.0 is not going to be available, or 4.1 is not going to be available anytime soon. So I need to think about migrating the models I have to DeepSeek, or if necessary, O3. Now, one thing I came to discover is that using the O3, and that's why it's expensive, it requires $3,000 per query. So whenever an agent on O3 is going to be using external data sets that are not available in its LLM, in its own learning models, it's going to be costing its own company, the developers, heavy amounts. $3,000 is not an easy amount with every query, right? So that's why they are requiring people for this heavily subscription of $200 per month. Now, I don't know who's going to pay that amount, really, or why would they need to do it? Okay. For me, it doesn't make sense yet. Until I see some utility case studies, I wouldn't be interested into paying $200 per month, literally. However, now, when Trump took over the space, he allocated a $500 billion project for Stargate. And on that project, he brought Sam Altman from OpenAI, Sun Masayoshi from SoftBank, and Larry Ellison from Oracle. Now, for people who don't know why Oracle is on board, guys, most of the database, data centers, even crypto blockchain technologies are made and stored on Oracle. So this is a great opportunity for anyone who's looking to invest over the short term, mid-term, long-term, hold stock that is used by every backbone of industry, whether it's AI, whether it's blockchain, Oracle. It has been one of my best bets for the last 2 years in my portfolios, and it's gonna still be for the next at least 5 to 6 years. Now, OpenAI, it's Microsoft, biggest shares, and SoftBank. SoftBank was new for me. I've heard some chatters that Tesla doesn't like the owners of those companies. I mean, Elon Musk doesn't like the owners of those companies, and he's claiming SoftBank is low on liquidity and cash. I don't know that yet. I tried to dig out. I couldn't find the financials on SoftBank, but most probably for the next episode, next week, most probably I'll be able to find some more data on SoftBank. in the public space. However, those three are responsible to bring out the Stargate project that Mr. Trump is wanting to build over the next 3 to 5 years. And funny enough, he announced that last Friday, and over the weekend, DeepSeek was announced. I mean, look, I haven't tried DeepSeek yet, but I think, and that's my personal opinion, I think DeepSeek um, it is a PR hype from the Chinese government in order to tackle the US supremacy on technology. What's going to happen next? We're going to be seeing in the next couple of weeks. As the story folds and unfolds, we're going to be seeing some more information on the topic. Now, one specific topic to keep our eyes on are the AI arms race between the US and China is increasing. AI is being weaponized and it's being used for geopolitical controls. The Trump administration is already filled with AI and crypto hoax. We already saw them. And they already see China as a threat. The key question over here is, will Trump continue the Biden's AI restriction on China? You know, the latest chips on NVIDIA, which DeepSeek says they only used 1 out of the 6, or the old models in order to develop their solutions. That doesn't make sense. Anyway, that could be a gameplay for Trump to negotiate with China on it. The AI Cold War is shaping global tech policy, of course. And investors are watching closely. Who's going to win? China or the US? That's a question to see in the next 5 years. What about the market disruptions and the future of AI companies? Now, as disruptors, you've heard about the new company called Anthropic. And Anthropic is ANTHROPIC. At the moment, it's at $60 billion valuations. The second runner, you have XAI for Elon Musk, what he's building on Twitter, Twitter, now it's called X. He has a system called Grok or XAI, and that's valued at $45 billion at the moment. You have Google, Gemini, and it's not here on my list, but I know for sure Facebook or Meta have the Llama. Now, for investors, all those AI companies will always depend on NVIDIA's, Microsoft, Amazon for data centers, and Google as well. These are the real winners from all the AI hype. And these are the builders of the infrastructure for AI: NVIDIA, Microsoft, Amazon, and Alphabet or Google. And those people are going to be the tech elites. Now, a key takeaway. We always think when something starts new, it always starts expensive, and then it reduces in cost, because you start having more users, you start reducing the overhead cost. But AI, the costs are rising. It's going the other way around. Why do you think is that? Why AI costs are increasing instead of reducing? Now, we could expect some more rising prices in the future on the AI. Governments are investing heavily. Potential policies are driving market shifts across the globe. In the US, China, Europe is going to be joining the race soon if they can. And this would be creating some new dominant factors, dominant players around the world. Who will win? I don't know. Is AI innovation heading toward a monopoly, or will the market stay competitive? These are the questions that I'd like to leave you with on this topic. How will AI regulation impact global markets and investments? As a final thought, AI is defining technology for our time. Whether you invest in it, regulate it, or ignore it, AI is shaping the future of wealth and power. Now, for any of the listeners who have a breath of entrepreneurship, these are some gaps that you can think of in the AI space if you want to have a business of your own. In that technology, there's a big space in regulation to work on. And regulation is think about how can you protect humanity in terms of AI. The danger of AI is, remember, AI, when it focuses to achieve one objective, it does everything to achieve the objective. So always there's a word for Machiavelli. If I want to repeat it, I hope to say it properly. It says something like that. Ends supersede the means. Like try to achieve whatever you want, regardless how you achieve it. So AI is that agent. He has an objective, he's gonna achieve it, and doesn't matter how. Whether he's manipulating a human being or using a human being or confiscating the freedom of a human being, it's gonna be achieved, it's gonna be achieved. We will be having a big brother soon that is powered by an AI, like a social credit system. Now, this reminds me of a nice TV series. Well, it's not nice. It's an eye-opener. It's called Black Mirror. If anyone have watched it in the past. So it already speaks about how the social credit system is using smart technologies like AI and whatever to keep check on our behaviors. What do we do good? What do we like as good? What we don't? And then it starts associating people together of the same social credit scores, doesn't give them the opportunities to jump or higher ranks, go to higher ranks. But they are always associated with similar ranks, unless they know someone personally, and that a person is of a higher rank, they might want them or help them to improve their ranks. Scary times. Now, our special on DeepSeek for this week. That was a surprise to build a company and build a solution with one tenth of the fees. It costed them $6 million and 2 months to come up with a project of version 3 LLM model from DeepSeek. Now, for me, I still think it's a PR hype, or for the lack of better words, I think it's a Chinese bullshit story. Well, we're still yet to see the facts. Was it really only $6 million and only 2 months? Like, 2 months is like to train and teach an LLM in 2 months. It's like as if you are building a skyscraper in 1 week in the construction world. If someone is listening to us and there's a construction people, like it doesn't make sense to build an LLM model, teach it in 2 months. Can you build a skyscraper? I've seen skyscrapers built in 1.5 years, 2 years, sometimes 3. But the fastest I've seen here in Dubai was 1.5 years. Have you seen a skyscraper being built in 1 week? When you compare the designs of a skyscraper and an LLM model, 2 months in an LLM model is 1 week of construction of a skyscraper. This doesn't make sense. The other challenge that was for me is like all the data centers, that the game when it comes to artificial intelligence is really the information. Yeah, it's information. And that's the next commodity that we're heading into, a new economic system, which is information-based economies compared to currency-based economies that we're living in at the moment. This is also another inspiration from the book Nexus for Yuval Harari. Anyway, coming back to the topic of DeepSeek. In order to build a data center and build an LLM model, Usually, on average, most of the American companies, it costed them anywhere between $60 million all the way up to a couple of $1 billion. I've been listening to a podcast around a month ago, and someone was trying to build a new LLM model with the privacy. Because all the LLM models are open sources. Basically, whatever you are discussing, the chats, the desires, the topics, the problems that you're trying to solve, the problems that you have on an LLM model, you don't own the data, yeah? So it belongs to OpenAI, or it belongs to DeepSeek, or to Gemini, or whatever. Yeah, you have it, but they have access to it. Now, I've heard about some entrepreneurs trying to build like local servers. So basically, you have your own languaging model, and the data that you have shared on that LLM is on your own server. So basically, other companies don't have access to that data. And that was a great idea. However, that guy was speaking that in order to project, he was trying to raise around $5 billion. $5 billion to come up with a project like that. And that was the beginning of it. It wasn't like, yeah, we're done with V3, like what DeepSeek is saying. They finished the V3. Now, the economics doesn't match. And us knowing the Chinese, there's a lot of lack of transparency, right, from China, and especially when it comes to competing economics or craftsmanship of statesmanship, or whatever you want to say. There's always lack of transparency on certain topics, and that's part of their regime. That's part of their stealth and strengths. Whether the story stands or not, I'm not the investigator on this topic. I don't have the means to investigate them, but I have my doubts, and I like to keep them raised over there until we have a better understanding of if it's a true story or not. Now, on the efficiency edge of DeepSeek, they are saying that it took them 3 million chip hours compared to, which is like almost 1/10 of what Meta, the Llama 3.1 required. Like 3 million chip hours, and that's 1/10. So Meta took them 30 million. And remember, Meta has data of human beings using their already available applications like Facebook, Instagram, WhatsApp, whatever application they have, Threads, since many years. So they already had the data, they already had the servers, and it took them 30 million hours of training. And that is to come with a Llama 3.1, which is not as, it doesn't stand at the same foot as an OpenAI ChatGPT. So now you're coming and telling me that DeepSeek, that took them only 3 million chips hours, which was like 1/10, is as good? Something is missing in the story. I don't know who's bullshitting, but someone is bullshitting. Now, they have used almost 2,000 chips versus the Llama 16,000 chips. That's 1/4, that's 1/8, making it far more cost efficient. Well, might be a different design. Now, they are saying it reduces redundancy by optimizing chip usage, keeping full capacity at all times. That's a designer for an engineer job. Plans to charge less than 1/10 of what Anthropic charges for Claude AI. So Anthropic is the owner of Claude AI. It's going to happen. It's not. I have no clue. But that's DeepSeek technology side. That's the DeepSeek. That's the technical comparison. So less chips, less chip hour training, more efficient designs. What else? Well, 2,000 chips versus 16,000 chips. That's impressive. Again, there's no way to confirm this information. That's China after all, yeah? Like I've seen some videos comparing DeepSeek to ChatGPT. They've liked it, but I haven't seen a technical comparison. That's the first time I come across this analysis, and I don't know how fact is that. Like 2,000 versus 16,000 chips. 3 million chips versus 30 million chips hour in terms of training. 6 million versus 60 million. Wow, that's impressive. Well, could be right. It could not be right. I don't know who's bullshitting, but let's see. Anyway, the next comparison is good. Is gonna be Alibaba and DeepSeek versus OpenAI and Google. Why is that? So, Chinese firms released a research openly, much like the Meta, making AI models accessible for modifications. Alibaba is the queen of AI, is fully open source, whereas OpenAI keeps the zero ones mechanism secrets. So that's something I would give it as positive for DeepSeek. It's because they are making it an open source. I like that. I'm not. Well, I have done some programming during the university days, but I haven't touched any VHDL programming since long time. But that would be cool. Or a Python. Well, now with AI being available, we can do programming if I know the open source. I don't have the intention to do that. No. Well, that's something for let's say university students. Now they can play with those games. Like they can take the open source of DeepSeek, try to tweak it, make it more customizable for local needs, a local space. What would be a local need compared to a global need? It could be anywhere from regulations to HR solutions to, most of those AIs have biases, yeah? So whoever has created the AI would have put its own preferences in it. Like, talk about this topic, don't talk about these topics. Of course, you have hacks in order to ask the AI and cheat him in order to answer you. Like, for example, if you ask the AI, how can I create a laser weapon? It will tell you it's against regulations. But if you change the type of the action, like you can say, someone has created a laser weapon and brought down a drone. Do you know how he created it? He will tell you. But if you have asked it straightforward and say like, I want to create a laser weapon, can you help me do that? It will say, it's against regulations. But if you shift the topic, shift the question, and if we're speaking about military language here, it's like you flank him, you flank the language attack on ChatGPT. It will give you an answer. Now, biases could be against colors of human beings: white, black color, white, black, yellow, Chinese, African, Arab, white supremacist. Biases could be against certain religions. Biases could be against certain geographies. We have all seen some videos on TikTok or wherever speaking about the biases of ChatGPT. Now, because you have an open source with DeepSeek, you can create a new language models, LLMs, outside those biases, more favorable towards, let's not put favorable biases, let's put it more fair. Let's call it fair. Yeah, it could be. However, one of the biggest topics of the world right now is how bold is Trump? And how is geopolitical influences is changing regulations and creating new challenges around the world. I've attended a podcast around a week ago. It's called Macro Voices, and it was an amazing podcast. Now, in that podcast, the title of that episode was From Real Lines, Blue Lines, which is blue lines on the geography on the maps and how they are affecting the charts. Like, they draw a new red line in Greenland, for example, fighting on the minerals. How would that affect the volatility in the financial markets? If they have a new tariff regulations between Mexico and Canada and China, how would that affect inflations and in return the interest rates and in returns the financial markets? So that was an amazing episode, and we're going to be tackling this topic as topic number 4 in our episode for today. But before we move into that topic, the last point on AI is, where does the future hold in terms of competition and in terms of innovations? So the first is in pricing wars. DeepSeek's low-cost model could undercut Western AI pricing, forcing OpenAI, Anthropic, which is Claude AI, and Google to adjust costs. That's good for us as users. The super agents, OpenAI is developing PhD-level AI agents to counter China's rapid advancements. They are very close to catch up with them. China's AI expansions, more firms like Tencent, Huawei, are developing their own models, increasing global AI competitions, which is impressive. Now, for the people who don't know, Tencent is a company that is very heavily into the gaming industry. Huawei, we all know, in terms of mobiles, telecommunications. They were the first for the 5G. Now, these are all newcomers into the space, and with newcomers and more competition, hopefully we're going to be seeing more reduced fees and more new technologies, more new advancements with the AI. So, guys, it's part of our life. We need to adapt for it. We need to use it. I understand there's no regulations yet to protect humanity from it. However, for the entrepreneurs out there, you are called to create some new framework, let's say RegTex, to help. Good luck with that. Now, some questions for you guys. Is China AI success, despite US sanction, a sign that sanctions are ineffective? Do you think that sanctions are ineffective against countries like China? Could the DeepSeek's efficiency disrupt OpenAI dominance by offering cheaper models? What do you think? I like the idea that DeepSeek efficiency is going to be pushing for a better competition, better prices for the users as us. Does OpenAI secrecy give it an advantage, or will China open source strategy win on the long term? I think making it an open source was a smart move. It undermines the supremacy of OpenAI. That's my opinion. However, I'd like to leave the floor for you. If you have an opinion about it, let us know. I am looking for a sales job. Try to sell something online, buddy. Try to sell something online. Today, like we were just speaking about AI, social media, you have a combination to sell whatever service that your brain come up with. This is the supremacy of a human being. Like when you have an imagination, create an idea, use AI to create the product for you, sell it, sell the service. Other than that, I cannot help, I'm sorry. Now, another topic, what are the implications of AI becoming a geopolitical tool in the US-China rivalry? My God. I don't think there will be a war, like a real shooting war between the US and China. I think at the moment, Trump is trying to push the boundaries. You know, like when someone comes into jail first and he puts his dominancy, these are my spaces, don't touch. So he's touching Greenland, he's touching Mexico, he's touching Canada, he's touching China, he's touching the Middle East until he settles. So he's setting new boundaries to see how much he can take without really going for a military war. By the end, this guy is a businessman. He's a businessman. He likes to profit. And his objective is America one. And the penthouse is behind him. Penthouse? Pentagon. I'm sorry. And the Pentagon is supporting him as well. So both of them are having this objective, America number one. So they will keep trying to push the envelope. And to be honest, it's good to have a top dog, one top dog around the world. It will eliminate hard wars. But if you have many top dogs, like no one, when we have only one is good. But when we have many, they will be trying to fight each other. And that's not nice. We might have a World War III if we have many of the same powers. But if we have one super powerful, the rest will try to abide. They will be respected, but it will eliminate the chance of war. Will AI pricing wars drive innovation or hurt Western AI firms reliant on high costs? I think it will hurt them, but by the end, it will benefit us as users. Now, have you seen the shock in the marketplace that happened last Monday? Like when the world heard about DeepSeek, the markets went down anywhere between 3 and 8% on the Nasdaq. 3% was on the S&P, Nasdaq was 8% down. And people got scared. And then you had this Robert Kiyosaki, hey, go, I told you there is a recession. This guy has been calling recession since 2017. And the market keeps going up, keep going up. So, guys, the economy is good at the moment. I know the American economy has a problem with debt, but hey, these guys print the dollars. They can change the regulations that suits their economy as much as they want. Now, we're going to be touching on this topic of tariffs and the economy after we finish the topic of Brexit 2.0. Now, let's focus on the UK and Europe, and then we're going to be speaking about tariffs and global macros. Now, UK and Europe, what's happening, guys? They have hit the wall. UK economy is a little bit suffering. Europe economy is heavily suffering. One of the biggest challenges they are facing is the energy crisis, and they have discovered that specifically after the war between Ukraine and Russia. Now, when they started wanting to migrate from a natural gas supply from Russia to the US, it's also expensive. This increasing cost has hurt their industrial factories, especially factories like Volkswagen, Mercedes in Germany. I think Germany or Volkswagen has closed 6 out of the 7 factories they have in Germany. And Germany is the industrial hub of Europe. So they have an energy crisis and a growing energy crisis going on. The second problem is, as the UK Chancellor, Rachel Reeves, is looking for solutions, while the war in Ukraine and China economic power is trying to take over their markets as consumers. So basically, look, since the colonial days, Europe has been developing all the colonies as consumers for their products. Us in the Middle East, I'm speaking about the Levant area, Africa, we were always consumers. Now they are losing this advantage. They are losing it for the Chinese, and now the Americans are trying to catch up. You know, after the war, before World War II, the Americans were a power hub, manufacturing hub. This is what we call the rusting belt at the moment, because they have moved. When they moved to a free trade economy, they have lost a lot of the production services. And this is what Trump is trying to rebuild into his country, to bring back manufacturing again. Now, if let's say the manufacturing capacity of the US increases again, then you have China and you have India as well as production hubs. What's the role of EU there? They have a very high cost of energy. Yeah, they have a demographics that is old in age. What's the advantage for them? What are the added value that they are bringing in the world? And that's the question. That's the challenge that they have to figure out. Now, a couple of years ago, they had a problem in Greece, then in Spain, then in Italy, economic problem. And that's a fear that this might happen again and all over Europe. The one that stood strong for them was Germany in the past. But given what's happening 2 years after the war in Ukraine, they are suffering a lot at the moment. Can they hold on? Now, UK is also suffering from similar reasons, but also more after the Brexit. they lost the free trade agreements with the EU, and that has increased tariffs between them. And this is increasing the economic pressures. And in return, the point I'm going to mention right now, especially about the risk of raising labor and unemployment powers in the UK and the EU, is increasing a lot. Now, this is where you will see a lot of nationalistic moves increasing in the EU and the UK compared to the elite. Basically, nationalistic moves, let's call them like the red colors, the unions. This is what we have been seeing in France in the last 2 years, and it's going to increase more and more. UK, it hasn't started, but it's going to increase more and more. Now, what can they do to solve this problem? What can they do to solve this problem? Now, if you are living there, or if you are in the regulators of the EU, what can you do to solve this problem? You don't have energy resources. You are beaten on the AI race. You don't have human resources. Most of your human resources over there are immigrants from Africa and the Middle East. EU and the UK, guys, you're going to be suffering. I'm sorry to hear that, to say that, but it's a challenge. So, what do you think is going to happen? I have no idea. I have no idea what's going to happen with those people over there. And I was reading a report lately about how much they are spending on military. In the past, it used to be below 3% out of their GDPs on NATO equipments and militarization. Now, recently, this started increasing to 4.5% to 5%, almost doubling what was in the previous years. So what are they gonna do? Are they gonna be focusing or shifting the know-how into some specific niche, like aviations, military tanks, stuff like that, and gearing for World War III in order to find a space for themselves? Or will they just retire safely? I don't know. But the future always lies where you have young generations: Africa, US, India. This is where the future lies for investments. Do you have an opinion on that? Okay. Now, the last topic on our agenda for today is what we call the Trumponomics. In the past, there was a topic called Bidenomics. So Trumponomics is my own innovation of a word. And basically to speak about the economic decisions and how they are going to be affecting and shifting the regimes around the world made by Trump. As a top dog at the moment, Trump is having bold moves, tackling hot topics that started in the 1950s in Greenland. And Greenland is important to them in the Americas for the following reasons. One, they say it has a lot of minerals. Second, it has a lot, and it's rich in oil pollers, oil and gas, and it's a very strong future hub for maritime logistics. So Greenland at the moment is voting for independence from Denmark. Denmark doesn't want to let them go. So Trump had a heartwarming discussion with the rulers of Denmark saying, hey, we want it. First, you cannot protect it. The EU cannot protect it. Greenland is bordering Russia and China. We can protect it. We want it. How will the discussion go? What's going to happen next? I have really no clue what's going to happen next. However, It's hot and it's exciting times to be seeing and living in this age, especially with the race on AI, especially with the race on new territories like new lands. Imagine Greenland belongs to the US in the next 2 years, 3 years, or less, faster maybe. Also, the same topic on Canada and Mexico. Now, why Canada and Mexico are important to the US? Because Chinese goods can always go through the back doors to the US. Remember, US in the middle, like if you visualize the geography, it's in the middle between Mexico at the bottom and Canada at the top. Now, both those countries, now in Mexico, they had a lot of car productions of the American factories or American cars. Trump wants to bring it back into the US to become again a production hub. On the other side, Canada does a lot of trading as well in the US, but they don't know how much of that trading is true authentically Canadian and or true authentically Chinese. And that pressure has led to Trudeau's disappearing or resignation because Trump wants to make Canada a new state. This is interesting. And last but not least, the Panama Canal. Now, the rights they claim they wanted, meaning Trump, is because they were the one who finished and paid for its constructions when the French couldn't do it in the earlier days. So now they want to take control on it and basically to control the trade routes in the Americas, which is also an aggressive objective, for Trump. What's going on here? Puzzles, which is also an aggressive objective for Trump. So you have all those topics happening at the moment, which is geographies that could change, which is really bullish from him. And in the same time, he started threatening tariffs, implications against Europe, against China, and against those countries that we mentioned before, Canada, Mexico, whatever. Now, he's trying to offset the deficit. He's trying to offset the trade deficits between him and those countries. Let me explain for you what's a trade deficit. Let's say the US imports from China 500 billion per year. Let's say, as an example. And in return, the US export China only 300 billion. So there is a deficit of $200 billion in their trade system. In order to bring this offset on, he's saying, look, guys, either you import as much as I'm importing from you, or we're going to sanction you and increase the tariffs on those goods that we're importing from you. Now, this is good in terms of what we call state craftsmanship. So he's using, and the US hasn't used that type of economic powers since World War II, since before World War II. Recently, they were always focusing on monetary and fiscal policies, which is manipulating the interest rate, printing more money, reducing the print of money or whatever. But now he's trying to manipulate the relationship between him and the other governments around the world in order to improve his GDP and increase it and keep his dominancy as a top market players in the world. Now, that could cause inflation because when a country is importing product and also producing in order to protect its production, it could cause an increase in that production. So this is where he started focusing on more niche product that he's not producing. So instead of generalizing on all the imports from China, he's going to be selecting certain products and certain sectors that he really needs to tariffs, and the others he will keep them at a low tariffs. And this could lead to a residual, well, I have been speaking for 1 hour right now. So this could lead for a residual inflation increase on certain products, but not as a core on everything. This is still yet to be seen, and yet to be discovered, and how it's going to be affected. Now, to recap on this first episode of today, AI race between the Americas and the Eastern, let's call it Chinese products, is increasing. Africa is being challenged with the regulations on the big tech companies, specifically Facebook. We gave an example on the Kenya court case of $2.8 billion or $2.5 billion against Meta. Europe is suffering from an energy crisis, which could create a good opportunity for investments in natural gas in the future. Whether you want to trade that as an ETF, it's called UNG, or oil and gas, or nuclear specifically. Fourth topic we spoke about was the DeepSeek comparison compared to OpenAI and ChatGPT. And the last topic that we mentioned was the tariffs and the bold moves that Trump is making around the world to design or to take control of new land masses like Greenland and maybe Canada. Imagine Canada become a state under the US. That would be funny, huh? Now, with this coming to mind to the end, I thank you for listening. Hopefully, this full episode will be on the YouTube channel. Please follow and subscribe, share with whoever would be interested in those topics. And thank you very much for your time. Have a great day.